Welcome back to Talking Transitions. Today's guest is ex-professional footballer, now property investment company owner, Rose and Dean, Tom Rose. Tom, thanks for coming down.
Thank you for having me.
Give us a little bit of background on you coming through at Wolves as a young lad.
So I started at Villa when I was probably about 7 or 8. My dad was the physio there, so I got quite lucky.
Is he a good physio?
Not anymore.
I tell you what, we need a few good more physios out there.
Yeah, no, he's decent, but so I started at Villa when I was about 7 or 8. Come from playing Sunday League when I was probably about 6 or 7, playing a year up. I must have scored about 60, 70 goals in a season. Kind of got lucky, got to Villa through my dad. And kind of started from there.
What position was you?
Centre mid.
So
I started centre mid.
60, 70 goals as centre mid?
I know. I was the only one playing by the sound of things in it. But now he's decent. So I started at Villa. We had a decent team. And I was there till I was probably about 12. Got released. So he was decent.
And then from there you went to Wolves?
Went to Wolves. So I actually, when they told me I was getting released, played against Wolves the next game. I've come back into the change room, obviously, when all the lads saying, "Oh, did you get kept on? Did you get released?" And they were asking me, and all the release lads left. And I stayed on to train, and they're like, "Oh, did you get released?" I was like, "Nah."
Well, just lied.
I lied. Yeah, I was only like 12 when I was embarrassed to tell them I was got released.
Is that what it was? Did you feel embarrassed at the time?
Yeah. Because I've been there since. Obviously, I was good mates with them all.
Yeah.
Been there since I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I was the only one who come back who was released. So I stayed on to train because obviously my dad, knowing the industry well, and he'd been in football for years, he was just saying, "Look, stay, train, keep fit, and hopefully another club comes." Yeah. And we played against Wolves, which is funny enough where I met my business partner, Joe. He was playing right wing, I was left back at the time, and we've clashed knees. My dad's run on the pitch, physio, and that's literally how I met my business partner. We've been friends ever since then. I went to school together, but Wolves took me on trial after that game, and kind of took things from there.
Any clashes in business then?
Any
clashes in business?
Every day.
Every day.
Nah, just normal stuff in it.
Yeah.
But, now I think we've got that relationship where when things need to be said, things are said. But good mates, he's like my brother. I'm with him every single day. Literally had pretty much the same story, which is good.
So at this time, both Wolves and Aston Villa are in the Prem, are they?
Yeah.
So you're kind of progressing, obviously, to get to the Premier League is a dream of every footballer. Yeah. But it gets cut short a little bit after getting released by Wolves. Yeah,
so I was at Wolves till I was 16. And I remember driving with my mum and dad to find out kind of decisions, scholars and things like that. And I was getting texts on my phone, release.
Off all your mates?
Yeah, off all the ones obviously in the meeting before me. Literally most of them saying release. And I'm thinking, I'm one of the last ones thinking, I must be getting a scholar here. I've gone in and literally just straight away, sorry, we're going to have to let you go. And I think they only kept on a couple of them.
Did they give you the reason why?
No, not really. It was just, I had a few injuries. I broke my thumb and I was out for quite a while. Hammy, like normal niggly bits, but nothing major. I was playing with the 18s either way. I've been playing up for a few years, but no, it was just one of the things
that under 16 one is a big one, isn't it?
Before
the youth team, the 14, 15s, like it is what it is, but 16s is where you're leaving school.
You feel like there's still time, don't you? 14, 15, got 16.
And it doesn't seem as like you're still a young lad enjoying football, playing and all that, but that under 16 one before you get in the youth team is like, it's a big one. I can remember mine going in at Wigan. I was at Wigan for 7 years now until under 16. I didn't have one thought in the back of my head about getting released. I thought I was definitely going to get a scholarship.
I was in a bubble. I just thought I'm going to make it because I'd always been playing up. I'd always been playing well. Yeah. I thought, obviously school teachers now, so I think about plan B and all that. I think I don't need a plan B. I've got plan A and it's working.
Oh yeah.
So
I was like, I'm quite a realistic guy as well. I'd say if I'm fucking shit or like if I've had a bad game or whatever, or thought I was going to get released. But I just generally didn't have one thought in the back of my head about getting released. And Tony Kelly's my dad's mate. He actually got me to Shrewsbury afterwards and all that. But he was in the meetings. He started working for Wigan. He was like a Wigan and Bolton legend.
Yeah.
Actually got nicknamed Zico after the Brazilian. He was that good. But he ended up like calling us to the side and he looked a bit like, because we were mates, like he looked a bit, that day I remember looking back now, he looked a bit like,
there's a look on his face.
Yeah, there was a look on his face that I thought, so. And I remember thinking, obviously I was only 15, I remember thinking, he's winding us up, he's a funny guy anyway. I remember thinking he's putting that on here to wind me up to get a big happiness at the end of it. Got into the meeting, got released. I was like, I was crying my eyes out. Didn't go to school for 3 days, obviously.
Yeah, I was the same.
Similar to you, I didn't lie to anyone, but I couldn't face going into school at the time. I didn't want to face looking at everyone in school thinking I was going to get a scholarship to now John is not at Wigan anymore. What's he going to do? Like,
isn't it horrible? Like
15 years
nothing,
old.
it's nothing,
horrible,
but then it's everything.
I don't think a lot of people realise because of the pressure. Even from a young age, particularly at Villa and Wolves, obviously both were Premier League clubs at the time and doing well. The pressures that you put on yourself and even just the coaches, teammates around you, and friends and stuff like that.
The football, you'd be Tom the football, and like obviously you get released in the next minute. Like, what are you going to do? I remember going on trials to all different clubs, like Chester. Went on trial at Chester, didn't get signed. Tranmere didn't get signed. I'm thinking, what's going on here? But it's hard, isn't it? You go on trial. They've already give their scholarships out, by the way. Do you know what I mean? There's not many spaces left when you get released. Like late to the end of the season, when you've already give the scholarships out, there's not many left. Luckily for me, I told the story about the shooting, but luckily I got signed. But you got released at Wolves. Yeah. How did you end up going to Rotherham?
Well, it was between Rotherham and Coventry. I went on trial at both. Did really well at Coventry. I went to Coventry first. I actually went back to Aston Villa for a bit as well, just for getting a bit of fitness. And it was like a bit of a weird one because they released me, went to Wolves. Then they released me, went back to Villa. But just for fitness and more just playing at as high of a level as I can. Coventry did really well, but I think it was more of a case. They had a lot of trialists. A lot of people had been released, and there was about 30 odd bodies in the change room. Yeah. And it was a nightmare. So then I went over to Rotherham and pretty much signed me after a week. It went really well. They'd already been in touch with Wolves anyway, knew I was getting released. They'd watched a few games that I wasn't even aware of. And I'd moved up to Rotherham.
You signed a 2-year scholar?
Yeah, 2-year scholar, yeah.
And did you live in Rotherham or was you travelling?
No, I was in digs. So I was in the digs with Lawrence Bilbao, Darnell. It was kind of a culture shock, but I'd never lived on my own. And I was in digs with obviously 3 other lads.
How did you find that then? Because some people are quite independent and they can go out and do that transition quite easily.
I think at the time, because the type of person I was at that time, I was quite a shy individual. And I just wasn't used to it. I was always used to going home, being with mum and dad, and then living 2.5, 3 hours away. It was just, completely different. I think I settled into it quite quickly, but in the back of my head, it was still a bit of a tough transition. But I didn't really get too much joy within my first year, unless until kind of towards the end of the season, I was playing a bit more, but I wasn't really playing as a first year. Had a couple of injuries, missed the Youth Cup and everything through injury, which was against Wolves, funnily enough. And I didn't have the best the first years, but second year was a lot better.
I remember my transition into digs. I was only an hour down the road.
Where was yours though?
Berry. It seemed long at the time, do you know what I mean? An hour away, but it was only down the road. But 3 or 4 years in the digs and you finish training and you got literally 10 hours before anything happens. Like before you go into bed, like there's so much time. You just do shit to just waste time.
Was you in with the family?
I was in with the family. Yeah. I was never a big gambler, but I'd still go to the bookies and fucking mess about on the roulette. But I would. Fortunately for me, I never got sucked into being mad on the gambling. Like, but you'd go there just to waste time because there was fuck all to do. Like we weren't in like a city. Yeah. But there's obviously you come across different characters when you're in the digs, don't you? Obviously, some are a bit more dedicated to becoming a professional than others, but you're kind of just going on your own journey, aren't you? So,
I mean, our digs was decent, but like the food was awful. I remember we had like burger and chips every night, and literally every night we kept saying to the digs lady, like, "Oh, come on!"
It's that allowance. They get an allowance, don't they, from the club? Oh, and they try and obviously, as many people would. They try and benefit as much profit out of that allowance as possible.
I should have a new Beamer on the drive after.
Honestly, I lived in a proper big house, and we'd be getting like beans on jackets for like dinner.
Well, I moved out of my digs I was living in a house on me after my first year pro. But this time I'm playing for the first team at this time now. Yeah, and I'm living in there, and I've went into like the storage. She had the storage cupboard with all the food and all that. And we used to have a lot of spaghetti bolognese and a lot of lasagna and a lot of mince-based food. And I remember looking in the storage cupboard. I must have been hungry after training. I wanted to fucking Kit Kat or something like that. And I went in the storage cupboard and I've seen a bag of mince like that big, and it looked like a cat litter bag. A cat litter bag, yeah. And it made me feel...
That's why you're a machine now.
And that made me feel sick. Right. It made me feel sick, but like a couple of the things that happened where like the son come over from America and like he was living on the living room floor, and it just weren't great for me living in a house. So the physio at the time, Skitty, ended up coming to collect me one day. Just randomly turned up outside the house, said, you're moving out there, it's not good for you while you're playing in the first team, well, you can't be living in that environment and all that.
Yeah.
Took me to his family house, and then I was in his family house with his mum and dad for like 2 or 3 years. Ended up becoming like a son to them. They come to my wedding all that a couple of years ago.
way.
Like, yeah, that's how.
Do you know what's funny in football? The relationships that you build actually, like along the way. You said your business partner. Yeah,
well.
one of my businesses, the football coaching business that I've got. I met him in digs.
Yeah.
Like we knew each other because we were both from Liverpool, but we'd never come across each other, and we probably would have never had a business had we have not lived in the same house together. He didn't progress in professional football as long as I did, so he was obviously cracking on with that. And then it come to the time where we had those conversations about kind of, you know, going together on it. But you know, as there's obviously positives and negatives to football, but the relationships that you make along the way, I think they're one of the biggest things out of it that I can take from it. You know
and
what I mean?
think it helps as well if you've got like a good family and the environment's good and all that to help you carry on like with your football career. It helps them. If you're in a happy environment, it's going to help you train and play better. Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think like you said about the relationships and just the stuff you go through, I don't think you realise at the time, but me thinking back to kind of moments through football and ups and downs, it's all helped me in my business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's but you don't realise at the time. I mean, when I was at Rotherham, I was always feeling sorry for myself and I'm not playing this week, I'm injured this week. So it all kind of puts you in good stead for proper life. You know
so you know, with your dad being in and around football, was he kind of the person who was advising you and like kind of helping?
Yeah, I mean, he'd been a physio. That's his whole life. He was a PTI in the RAF, so he was a physical training instructor. That was his background, and I went over to Aston Villa, and that's kind of all I've ever known. Just playing football with him when I was young, he was getting me to do bloody, I don't know, SAQ stuff and wobble board stuff when I was a kid. So I was left foot, right foot. I was both footed, and it was from him. So now he was good, and obviously he knew kind of the process. He'd been at the under 18s level, he'd been at under 8s level, and first teams in non-league clubs as well. So he kind of knew kind of what's going to happen.
Yeah, but even him saying going in and train like that type of obviously parents who aren't in and around football. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Because
I mean, even when I first went to Villa from Sunday League, I didn't know I was going to Villa. Like it was me on trial. Like he was like, the Sunday League team that I played before, they were called Admaston, which is in Telford where I'm from. And he was like, we've got a game against Villa. And then we was driving up, and I said, are all the lads coming? He's like, yeah. Got there, it was just me on trial. And he was like,
he didn't want to worry you.
Yeah, he didn't want to worry me because I was like a little nervous kid kind of thing. And
how did that go then? Because some people might go, where the fuck is everyone?
Yeah, I just think I just cracked on. To be fair, I was just playing football. I just love football, but just loved kicking the ball. But I think it was things like that he knew not to put too much pressure on, not to make it a big thing. And yeah, I mean, things worked out in the end differently, but I think it all worked out in the right way.
Things didn't work out differently in the end, but how was your dad with you then when your football career didn't work out?
It was a bit where we were both trying to make it work, and it just wasn't because of injuries and stuff. Yeah. It was a difficult one. Because so after I signed my pro contract at Rotherham. I got offered it when I was about 17. I was in and around the first team, then played kind of pre-season games and stuff, and done really, really well. I was out on loan quite a lot. Within my first year, you'll probably remember, I was probably never there. I was at conference and an Evo stick and things like that, doing really, really well. But again, it just didn't work out. And when I got released on the last day of the season. I remember Matt Hamshaw came over to me after training, because we were training in the stadium. And I remember it like it was yesterday. And he come over to me and was like, I don't see you playing next year because we just went down. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, we don't see you playing next year. And I was like, fair enough. I didn't think I had too much of a chance to prove myself because I was really never there. But again, that's life, football. So,
but you know, on the come up to that, was you planning for life away from Rotherham, or was you just
no?
Was you thinking you got to stay next year?
Yeah. Obviously nothing's ever guaranteed in football, and I knew that. But at the same time, I knew I was playing well. It wasn't the case where I was thinking I was going to be playing in the first team and I was going to be starting left back the season after. I was thinking I'll be around there though. I'll be in and amongst it. But no, literally just last day of the season, done. That's it. And luckily I had my agent who had Bristol Rovers who were interested. I went on trial there, but again injuries, which kind of stopped that from happening.
You went on trial at Bristol Rovers. You've done really well. Yeah. And then it was close to signing, and then you played the game and got injured.
Yeah, so I've been there for a few weeks. I stayed up there in and around the first team again, doing really, really well. They told me before the last game, so I played, I think it was 2 or 3 games, done really, really well. they told me before the last game, we're going to take you on. Looking forward to kind of taking you on next season, because this was obviously pre-season. And snapped my hamstring, probably the worst injury I've had. Literally went up for a header, and I always laugh when I talk about it because it sounds weird, but I went up for a header. The guys landed on my back, and my head's pretty much touched my foot, and my hamstrings just snapped.
You need to get into yoga, mate.
I know. I'm even more stiff now, but yeah, that was it, done. And they were like, "Look, we'll see how bad it is. We'll still take you on." And it went from 1 month to 2 months to 3 months, and ended up being a year.
So you end up being out for a year. Obviously, no pay for a year.
No pay, no nothing. Yeah.
So how did you deal with that? Did you have to try and get a job?
So for the first year, no. I had a little bit of savings and stuff, and I was training with Telford United. They trained at the Wolves facilities anyway. So I had kind of good coaches and physios and stuff around me. I was just trying to get back fit, and just kept tearing it. So it got to the point where I'm thinking, what can I do here? I can't go back into a club and earn any money because I can't run.
Yeah.
I've just got to get a job. So literally, property had always been in the kind of back of my mind. I remember like when I was in the change. Well, I was going to say, I remember when I was in the change room, there was a few of the players at Rotherham who were saying, like, talking about property, this, property, that. I remember thinking, like, why have these guys got like 2, 3, 4 houses? Like, I didn't understand it when I was young, but it was always in the back of my mind and it interested me. And I remember I was calling up loads of estate agents, and they were like, "You've got no experience. You were just a footballer, no experience. Didn't really have the best qualifications and stuff like that." So they were all saying no. So in the back of my head, I was like, I've just got to get some sort of sales job, doing anything that's just sales related. So I just got a job at JD Sports, serving trainers.
Why at the time then, Tom, was you not thinking, I'll go down the route of what my dad's done? He's successful. He's obviously, he's had a good career in that bit, and then now he's transitioned into football as well. What was that not ever a thought for you?
I've been asked that question quite a few times about my dad's career, because to be fair, he was even saying to me going to like the armed forces or something, because that's his background. Never really interested me, because I feel like even though at the time I wasn't on footballers' money or having the footballer's lifestyle, but I've had a taste of what I want. I want to be successful. I want to look after my family. And for me, if I was in the army or in the RAF or a physio, yeah, you can make a good living, but I want to retire my family. I want to retire my parents and look after everyone. That was my kind of whole goal. So I thought, long term, how do I get there? And it was sales.
What was the light bulb moment in your head though to think that you'd be good at sales? Like,
I think I'm good at talking to people, and a lot of people seem to get on with me, and we have good relationships. It's just normal conversations I have with people where we click, and I think I took that on board as in, if they get on with me, they must like me. That's a kind of skill in itself that I don't think I learnt really. It was just through being in the change room with people, probably the same as the both of you.
Yeah.
So I think just chatting to people. I remember when I was at JD, and again, you'll laugh, but we had to sell Crep Protect, the shoe spray. You'd get commission off of that, and I can't even remember what the commission was, like £10 per 10 bottles or something, like £1 a bottle. And I was selling a lot of going out of fashion, because I was speaking to the young lad like I was a young lad. I was speaking to the old man like I was an old man, and I was just being who they wanted me to be, and changing who I was to try and get the sale.
Chameleon.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And I feel like I just was doing really well, as well as I could selling shoes at JD. But it was a kind of a weird transition, because obviously it was a bit embarrassing for me to be a professional footballer, and then within a year to be on £7.70 an hour selling trainers. And I know obviously a lot of people came in who knew I was at Rotherham, knew I'd been a footballer since I was a kid, coming to the JD and saying, "Oh, can I have a size?"
So I'm saying, what's your thoughts then? Because obviously before you mentioned about wanting to retire your mum and dad, which I think a lot of people would like to do, who's come from like humble backgrounds or working class families. You're now in a position where you're working for £7 an hour in JD. How was you feeling at that moment? Because realistically, you're not going to be able to retire your parents on that.
Very, very low. But in my head, and I don't know why I thought about it at the time, but I always knew there was a bigger picture. Yeah. And I was always quite patient. I thought, you know what, I'm on the right path. To everyone else, it probably doesn't seem like it. But for me, I know to get to where I want to get to, I've got to somehow start at the bottom and work my way up, because sales, you have to start at the bottom and sell the rubbish stuff, the trainers and the sprays and whatever. So I was there for a little bit. Funnily enough, my business partner now, Joe, I tried to get him a job there. He went through the same thing as me, and didn't even get a job there. Nah. And then we both went. I left JD, funny enough, to get a pay rise to about £8 an hour at another retail clothes shop selling like designer stuff. Yeah. And lost my job there when they went bust. And it just, for me, it felt like another knockback to get to where I want to be. At the time, I had a little bit of money saved, nothing to talk about. But I was thinking I just need to make some money. I don't want to have my savings coming down every month.
And at this time, are you playing part-time football? Is like your football dreams over?
In and out. No, in and out. So I went, Joe, my business partner, he was playing for Newtown in the Welsh Prem. Yeah. And he was like, just come and play. See if you can enjoy football again. I didn't really enjoy it.
You fall out of love with footy then?
Yeah, and it was a long drive to Wales as well. But I didn't really enjoy it as much as I...
Is that part-time then? Training twice a week?
Yeah, and to be fair, I didn't even sign a contract there. I was just going there to see if I could get my love for the game back a bit. I mean, for a few years, I didn't even watch football, didn't even keep up to date with... I'm a Villa fan, didn't even look at Villa or anything like that. And just kind of, I don't know, I was a bit of a moody 19, 20, 21-year-old and just was like, football's not for me anymore. So yeah, I lost my job at the second shop, the retail shop I was at. And I was thinking, where else can I go? And I got a job making sausage rolls, funnily enough. So I was in a sausage roll factory with people who were like just come out of prison and things like that. And it was a nightmare.
It seems like you was a little bit lost using the wilderness a little bit. Like, look.
Oh, 100%. I was just doing anything to just make a little bit of money because I didn't know the exact way I was going to go. I knew the end goal, but I didn't know exactly how to get there as much.
What I would say though, this is the reality of like a young lad who hasn't made a name in professional football. This is the reality of what young lads have to do when
without a skill.
There's
no transfer. I mean, obviously there's transferable skills, but there's nothing on paper that says you are qualified to do this job.
That was my problem because every estate agency or property job that I was applying for, they said that you've got no skills, you've got no background in anything. It's just sport.
With all due respect to estate agents, though, no one's done a degree to get into those types of jobs.
That's what I was saying.
Being a good person, being able to speak to people and all that.
Yeah. And equally, a degree doesn't. Obviously, in certain jobs, it makes you more qualified, but it might not make you a better employee.
But again, if I'm in my head, I was just thinking, there must be people who have been estate agents before they prefer to take on over than me. So it was just, again, okay, that happened, on to the next thing.
Did you have a chat with your dad at any point to say, I'm stop playing football now. I am not gonna.
I think it was just kind of it was just
mutual conversation. Didn't need to have the conversation.
No, I think we both kind of knew that it was a bit of a sad time for me. I was quite down. Did
they ever have a conversation with you and was like,
you need to keep going?
You need to keep going. But I also understand that you might not be in the best position at the moment. Like,
I think it was injuries were just killing me. I was just doing the same thing, hamstring all the time, and I wasn't coming back from
Any chance your dad fucking sorting it out for you? I was a physio.
That's what I was saying to him.
When I was at Shrewsbury, mate, I was with Skitty, the physio. I was flying then, mate. I used to get treatments at home and all. You'd be made up with saying this now, I used to get treatments at home and all.
Did you?
You'd have me wrapped in cotton wool and I'd still pull my hamstring.
Was you like an injury-prone guy?
Yeah, all the time. Even from when I was young, I was getting injuries and stuff, but nothing that affected me when I was young. But again, when I got a bit older and once the big hamstring one went, that was it, done.
Yeah.
I just literally couldn't get back from that. Even going on jogs and stuff now, I can feel it. Yeah. So, but now it was like a mutual thing. We all my family knew that it was kind of, it wasn't going to work out. And I thought, am I just going to sit here and dwell on, I could have been a footballer, or am I going to do something that hopefully I'm going to be thinking, I'm glad I wasn't a footballer.
Yeah, which now you are in that position, but in them years up until that point, until you started getting the breakthrough at the estate agents, was you having any regrets about not trying to carry on, or did you believe that you was good enough to
I definitely believe I was good enough. I think the type of person I am now, if I was me,
the resilience in your head, mental states and all that, now you would.
And it's just the type of person I am. I was a bit nervy and stuff. I don't know if you would have picked on it when we was playing together, but I was a bit quiet.
You never used to speak to me. You should be mates with Joe. You used to love Joe, didn't you? Same hair and all that. Look, you used to have the slip back hair and all that. Same, we got the same area.
But yeah, I was quite shy, and I don't know. I believed in my ability, but again, I wasn't the kind of.
How does a shy kid then, Tom, go from someone who's a bit more reserved to a really good salesman?
Because I told myself to grow up.
Yeah.
And again, in that mindset, I was like, I need to make money. My whole goal was to make money, not for myself. I see my mum working ridiculous hours, my dad, same. My nan and granddad still working, and they're like nearly 80. And I'm thinking, I need to make some money.
Was that your driving force then?
Yeah, 100%. It wasn't even about, I know we touched on footballer's lifestyle and I had the taste of it, but for me, that taste was almost like, not that I want to have a footballer's lifestyle, it's out there. People are living this life that I want to live. People have got the money that I want. And okay, it might not be football, but I can
What
get
is
there.
a footballer's lifestyle that like you wanted? Because so obviously football is a completely different. It depends on obviously what level. So you might look at me and think, well, I haven't got
John
a
Nails
footballer's lifestyle.
5 coffees a day. Is that the lifestyle that you want?
I sit at home on the game ready machine watching Sky Sports News on repeat. I don't think you'd want that lifestyle. Like,
It more so security for my family. That's what it all came down to.
So it was a financial thing then.
Yeah,
That was the
I loved football when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I loved football. Do anything to play football. And when it transitioned into more so of a job, I didn't love it as much.
Yeah.
But it was a case where I could set my family up for life here if I do well enough. And again, that's kind of what spurred me to start my own business and go forward and do what I'm doing now. But it was all based around looking after my family, really.
you got your breakthrough then and estate agents. Talk us through starting off there and how well you done in the first few months.
Yeah, so it was literally a quick transition from the sausage roll factory to an estate agent's. So I was working at this factory for like 12-hour shifts, 5 on, 5 off, and I was going into work crying and all sorts, feeling sorry for myself. Like honestly, it was a really dark time for me, and even some of the guys there were saying, "Oh, what did you do before this?" I didn't even tell them I was a footballer. Didn't want to.
Tom had the same issue, didn't he?
Yeah.
One of the other people that we had on, he was working in a factory and he just found himself in a situation that he didn't want to be in. And you can either go one or two ways, can't you?
Yeah.
I guess you can either use it to spur you on or, he was around characters that, as you say, may have been in jobs prior to that was totally the other end of the spectrum from what you was doing.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't really tell anyone, and then I just was fed up with it. I just thought, I can't do this. It's not me. It's not the path that I want to go down. Again, I'm thankful I did it in hindsight.
Yeah.
Why? What did you learn from it?
I think as a footballer, you learn. You guys all know that everything's kind of given to you, and I was on a conveyor belt with half an hour break and a 12-hour shift, starting at 5 a.m. with flipping hairnet on.
At least that hairstyle wouldn't have gone out of
yeah, exactly that. But yeah, just
resilience. Do you feel like it gave you some resilience?
Yeah, and it just taught me about life. Nothing's ever a given. You've got to go out and get it yourself, and no one's ever going to feel sorry for you. The person next to you don't care that you're a footballer or you this and that.
Oh, no,
you
no
just got to go and get
cares,
it. Yeah, no one cares. And if anything, they'll laugh at you that you're not that anymore. So for me, it was just grow up, and go out and get it myself. So I got quite lucky. My auntie, she knew someone who worked at an estate agent. Spoke to the area manager who covered Dudley, Birmingham, Wolverhampton, that kind of area. It was for Shipways, who are part of the Connells group. And I had a call with the area manager. He liked my story and he's like, I'll give you a chance. So he knew obviously I had no kind of background apart from a little bit of retail, but he was like, no, I like you. He liked football himself.
That's really important sometimes, and it's just literally like a common interest. Like someone goes, right, we played football, I give him a chance.
That was it, because I think we got on anyway. He was a really nice guy. His name was Rob, but I think it was just, do you know what, this lad needs a chance or something. So I started there, and within about 2 months, I was making about 30 to 40 grand a month for the company just off of my sales alone, and they hadn't even turned a profit in a few years prior to me even coming. So I knew that it wasn't even my knowledge for property. I had no idea, didn't even know what a freehold, leasehold, anything was, and I think it was just me chatting to guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did you do that then? Obviously, you just said there the company had made a profit in 2 years, and then you're making them 30, 40 grand a month yourself. Like, how do you think you done that?
It was off the back of COVID, which was a nuts time anyway in the property market. Properties were going for like 20 grand above asking just anyway, and it was a good time for property, so I probably got in at the right time. But I think it was just, I got on with the majority of the people I'd speak to. I wouldn't speak to them trying to sell them something. I just said, how's things, mate? You're right. How's the family? Talking to them about their life. Then talk to them about, okay, you've got a property for sale. Why is it not sold? You might be on with another agent. Let me come around, just have a chat. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Let's just have a chat and see what I can do. And yeah, people would.
So was you actively scouting properties that haven't been
sold?
There was
like a CRM system that shows you like all the fall throughs, like they've gone on with another agent, it's sold and fell through, or it's come off the market. And if they'd contacted Shipways before, we've got all their details anyway. So I was just calling hundreds of people a day saying, look, I've seen you've just had your sale fall through. I've seen you come off the market 4 weeks ago, whatever it is. Or if we've had a valuation that we've already done, but they've not come on with us yet, just chasing them up.
Oh, so you weren't actually doing viewings? It was more.
I was doing viewings, but it was just a case. That was probably the main thing that I wanted to do as much of, because I could learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
why someone would say no as opposed to someone else saying yes to me and things like that. Viewings were good. I'd speak to obviously investors and stuff on viewings, and I think that's kind of where the business idea started, talking to investors. I always used to ask people on viewings, okay, so you're an investor. How did you get to be an investor? How much money did you start with? For me, I didn't really use it as a let me sell some property. It was more so I want to fact find.
Who's this person that's buying this property? Yeah.
So it was more so a fact find for me, because I thought estate agency for me was just like a stopgap, because I knew where I wanted to get. Again, being a businessman and stuff, I was thinking, well, I'm sat around all these businessmen who are buying property for the sake of it. They're just putting millions of pounds into property. They've got to have started somewhere. A lot of them had similar background to me. Some people had worse background, better off. It was like that. So I just learned a bit from everyone. And yeah, I think buyers like me, sellers like me, so I could close deals quite well. And yeah, after a few months, I was doing about 30, 40K. So I was doing all right.
So you obviously just got your foot through the door. You're doing really well, and you're enjoying it. Obviously, you're seeing the money coming and all that, how much you've made the company. How old are you at this time? 22, 23?
Yeah, 22, I think.
22. Yeah. So when did you...
21, 22, yeah.
So you're thinking now, like, obviously, you're doing really well at it. You can turn this into a business. Where was the light bulb moment in your head to think, no, you know what, I'm going to go my own way now and start my own business? Because that in itself is a massive risk at such a young age. Yeah, especially only being in the door for... How long was you in working with the estate agents?
10, 11 months.
10, 11 months. And you've... Yeah, so talk us through that moment there where you decided to set up your own business.
Yeah, so there was a property that we were looking to take on. I think it was, I can't remember exactly how much it was, maybe like 600 grand, give or take, something like that. And for us at the time, I was working in Dudley, which is, I don't know if you know Dudley.
Yeah, I got mates on Dudley, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, there's not many 600 odd grand houses around there. So for us, it was like, oh, it was a big one. Yeah. And I remember it was between us and another estate agent, whichever one he was going to go on with. And the other estate agent was quoting him 900 quid. And I was quoting him 14 grand, something like that anyway, 14, 15 grand. And he came on with us because I got on with him.
What, you paid an extra 14 grand?
And I quit. I handed my notice in 2 days later. I thought, I'm not doing this. I can do this
14 grand for the company or 14 grand for yourself?
Nah, for the company.
Yeah.
I would have got, I don't know,
commission on it.
Next to nothing on that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't about that. It was about if
done that for
if my relationship with this guy is made him change his mind from 900 quid for the same service, really, because all estate agents, high street estate agents, pretty much do the same thing.
It is the same thing, but I think there's a psychological thing as well with certain estate agents, isn't there? Obviously, 100%. If you've got a good reputation for selling houses in a certain area, you're happy to pay that premium because you know that there's more chance of it actually selling. Do you know what I mean? So,
and we were the big name in that area, we were the biggest company, but 14 grand difference.
Yeah, no, it's a big jump. Like,
yeah,
I wouldn't pay it. Like,
yours is still on the market.
I'd keep mine on the market. Yeah,
just sit there.
Fucking two rights.
Yeah, so yeah, I just thought, look, if my relationships got him over the line, and whether it's salesmanship or just being me or whatever it came down to, I thought, why am I doing this now for 30 odd grand a year when I could do it myself?
But you've only been in there for 10, 11 months, so it's like a massive risk.
And by the way, 30 odd grand a year compared to £8
oh, of course,
an hour.
Like, you're doing well.
Yeah, I was doing well, doing a lot better than I was doing the year before. But I think I just saw the transition of how many people liked me, how many people got on with me, how well I was doing so quickly. It's not a case where I wanted to just go straight into the deep end, but I thought, because I was asking for pay rises, I was asking for promotions and stuff, and I was saying, look, I'm doing better than people who've been here for 8-9 years.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter about how long I've been here. If I'm better than them and I'm doing better than them, I'm making more money, which is the whole goal of an estate agency, to make money for the business, then I should really be rewarded. And they were like, no, you've not got enough experience.
Do you feel like that forced your hand then? That was
100%. Yeah, I'm glad they didn't, because I probably would have been there a lot longer. Yeah. Is it right? Sound?
Yeah, I'm off.
See you in a bit.
That always happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if your employee's not happy, they move on elsewhere, but then that's sometimes the catalyst that you need, obviously, in business.
Yeah, but again, I'm glad that the people I met at the estate agents and like all my colleagues, I learned a lot from them as well. Some of them have been there for 25, 30 years and they knew everything about property, so that's how I had a good start.
And that's fine as well. Like, some people are totally happy being in somewhere for 25, 30 years on a guaranteed salary. Like, they're not too bothered about making more money. That's fine. People are different, aren't they? Obviously, 100%. You had bigger goals, you had bigger aims, and you wanted to change your life and change your family's life. So, obviously, people are completely different.
No salary is guaranteed, though.
Is it not?
No. It's not. It's guaranteed until the company doesn't want you.
Oh,
yeah. Do you know what I mean?
But yeah, that was the moment. So I just said, look, it's thank you for your help, but I didn't tell them what I was doing. I just said, look, I did have a few other agents that wanted me at the time. I met a few estate agents on viewings when I was selling property, and they said, "Oh, do you want to come and work for us and stuff?" And I was, maybe, I don't know, but I thought I'm just going to go from one company to the other doing exactly the same thing. So I thought it probably wouldn't work. So I think they thought I was just going to another company, and then probably within a month set up the company, set up Rose and Dean. And
so obviously Rose and Dean. So I'm guessing your business partners called something Dean.
No. So we started with. So there's two business partners. Joe Kenton, who I've grown up with, my best mate since I was 11 years old, went to school together, played for Wolves together. And Raza, his name's Raza Chauhan. He was at Shipways with me. Yeah. That's where I met him. Okay. His family name, he's Pakistani, his family name going generations back, he's Dean, but it was D-I-N.
We're far off then.
You didn't get far off. But we thought Rose and Dean sounds like, I don't know, like a little old couple or something. It got a couple of people in the soft spot. So they're like, oh, Rose and Dean sounds like a nice family company. So yeah, we went with Rose and Dean.
Why did you decide to go with the two lads you've mentioned?
It started off just me and Raza. So Joe wasn't in the picture straight away. So yeah, Raza and I just worked very well. It was a case at the estate agents. He would put them on the market, I would sell them, and it would just be, I don't know, just like tennis.
Did Raza quit his job?
Yeah, we both quit at the same time.
Same time, yeah.
Yeah.
Company's pissed off there.
I know.
Yeah, but yeah, both kind of the same kind of mindset. Just you're doing so well for a company, you look at your pay packet and think, again, it's not all about that, but for me at that time it was. And yeah, it just felt like the right time at the moment. I don't think I had too much time to think about it. I feel like I was on autopilot, and I just thought, that's the thing I'm doing it. I still don't remember exactly the exact moment, the exact thought process I had to even say, this is the business I'm going to start up, because there wasn't like a business plan. Yeah. There wasn't. It was just, let's see if we can do this on our own and try and make a little bit of money.
So what was it that you was setting up?
There wasn't a actual business plan. It wasn't like I said, because now I would refer to as an off-market property and land investment brokerage. But at the time it was, let's see who we can sell property for. Okay. I've got obviously a few mates who are playing football, and that was kind of a good starting point, and just friends, and everyone knew I sold property. So it was like a case where I can look after a few people. If I can get a good deal here, then they'll buy it, and we can kind of do things like that. So that's kind of how it started. I phoned up Joe and said, look, again, my now business partner, but at the time he wasn't. He was still playing for Newtown. And I said, do you know anyone who wants to buy or sell a property? I was just calling every single person on my phone book. And he was like, yeah, I've got this person who's got this for sale. And he kind of made that happen. And it just got to the point where he's my best mate. We pretty much my brother. We both want the same things. His mum might as well be my mum, and vice versa. It's that kind of relationship. And I said, look, I'm not going to be doing this without you. Come and do it with me. And myself and my business partner, Raza, just said, look, come on board. And then that was it. It was the three of us, and we kind of sat down and had a proper chat about, okay, how do we kind of, what's the strategy here? We can't just be going out just trying to find as many houses as possible, which we were doing for a few months, just trying to find anything.
Do you know, anywhere. In that time then, Tom, obviously they always say when you're working as an employee, you've got like your side hustle, it gets to a certain point, and then that's when you kind of go, right, I'm going all in on that. You've kind of not even contemplated that, and you've just both gone gung-ho a little bit. What was sustaining your life at that point?
I had a little bit of savings.
What about your business partner as well? Similar situation?
Very similar. Yeah. We all had probably about the same money.
So did you have like a runway where you're going to say, like, we've got 6 months worth of savings, which we're comfortable on?
Pretty much.
We need to make it work.
I can't remember exactly how long we had, but we were like, look, we've got a decent, if we pull our money together, we'll be all right. We can pay insurance, the property ombudsman, which is like £300 a year or something, and just things like that. Anti-money laundering checks, you pay about £70 a month. We had no office at the time. And we were just like, look, let's just see how far we can take it. And we found out very quickly that it's not about going out there just trying to find houses or trying to find buyers. It's just speaking to people and building good relationships, rather than just thinking transactional. Okay, how can I help this person? What do they need?
You had that mindset anyway, didn't you, though? Obviously, as you say, you weren't trying to sell. You was trying to sell the houses because obviously you get commission, but equally you was trying to build a relationship with the investors.
But as an estate agent, obviously commission's a massive part of it. And I think if I sell this, I know I'm making this. As a business owner, it's not really about that. And at the start, it's more about, okay, how can I get a sustainable business and build relationships to take me to the next step in the business, rather than let's just make as much money as we can, because I think a lot of people fall short doing that, and they just chase the money and they'll just be chasing forever. For us, we were more so just going after good relationships. Okay, who can we speak to that might be able to help us? We learn from different people, and again, a lot of footballers. We now deal with a lot of musicians, large investment groups, people like that. So we've got so many different avenues really of and different relationships.
I actually told Andre yesterday, I actually set up something similar a few years ago, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. Obviously I was buying properties.
You're not for Heighton. There's an area in Liverpool that John took me on a private tour the other day, and he went, that's mine, that's my cousin over there, that's also mine.
No,
so, yeah,
there's a road.
I think
there's a road and I've got about
like Robbie Fowler would have in Heighton.
I've got a few clients that just point out everyone on the street.
I didn't even know which one it was, actually, to be honest with you.
That's him. He doesn't invest outside the L36.
Yeah, L36.
L36, yeah.
But, anyway, I set up something similar because like I was into my property. I love property. Yeah. I found that you can make money in property and stuff like that. And obviously I've got loads of mates who play football that are interested in buying property but are from different areas. But I know the area that I was buying at the time in Liverpool was a good area to buy. You can get houses for cheap and obviously you can get good rental market on it. So I set it all up, went through the same thing as you, the property ombudsman, which I mentioned to him yesterday. And for some reason, I don't know why, I just didn't carry on with it. Maybe I just didn't know too much about it. It was on my own. Didn't do it, but I believed it was something good. And obviously you've done it and you've carried on with it. And obviously you've turned into a successful business. But yeah, I knew there was definitely something there to do.
Consistency, you know. I think obviously with Tom, what might be different, and you might say, Andre, that's not right, but he didn't have a wage coming in, so we had to make it work. Whereas, obviously,
I think to be fair, that was a big part of it. It's either this is gonna work, or I'm done. Yeah, I'll have no savings, no
back to the sausage roll factory.
Yeah,
I think the timing as well. I think obviously at this time I was actually still playing as in terms of like I weren't injured at the time. Obviously with this now, we're doing this while I was injured, and obviously it was more something I was more passionate about. Don't get me wrong, I was passionate about the houses, but like this is something I was more passionate about, and I was injured and I had the free time to do it.
Yeah.
My focus weren't just on football at the time when I set up that. My focus was on football. I was playing the championship at the time, which is a tough level for the team that we was playing at. It was hard. So like everything was just on that at the time. So I think the timing might have been wrong. But yeah, as he says, obviously I didn't need the money coming in. So I went full in on it. But yeah, maybe you should have carried on.
It's on the back burner, lad.
Yeah.
It's not like you can't continue. This podcast is sponsored by Blythe House, financial advisors for high net worth individuals and business owners. If you're looking for advice in pensions, investments, mortgages, inheritance tax planning, life cover, business loans and asset finance, then Blythe House has the expertise for you. Head over to the show notes on whatever platform you're listening to this on to find out more. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and follow the page. Thank you. You know, with obviously the estate agents, you hit the ground running pretty quickly. Was that a similar situation when you went into business, or
not really?
No?
In terms of the relationships that we were building, yeah, but money wise, not straight away. But we kind of went about it the complete opposite to everyone else. We were going after the big deals. After a few months, anyway, we're going after the big deals because we're like a lot of sourcing agents that you see about that do these courses. They'll just be selling any property, will charge $2,000 and just do that 100 times as they can. For me, I was thinking I'd rather
work less,
provide a better service in finding as below market value as possible, or a big portfolio, or something that's got a lot of money in it, like a development, for argument's sake. We were finding things that weren't just your single buy to let, that was just easy for anyone to find. We were trying to get hold of stuff that was kind of niche and that you can't really get anywhere else. And that's kind of how the business was quite successful. So
what was your first deal? How much did you make on your first deal, and how made up was yours as a free that when you got that first deal over the line? Because it must be like a big thing when you get your first deal over the line, when you set it up.
So we had a few things bubbling. Some things fell through. We had some big deals that fell through. But our first deal, we made about 40k, and it was a decent sized portfolio up in the north. And it was just a case where we just like, it's one of those moments.
So how do you make that then? If you don't mind me asking, for your business, how does a business that like that you provide, how does it make 40k on a deal like that?
So we don't charge. We're not sourcing agents. Again, we're an investment brokerage, so it's all investment led. So let's say you come to me and say, Tom, I'm looking for X, Y, Z in this area. We don't charge buyer's fees. That's not how we work. So any player, musician, or whatever that we deal with, we don't charge them a penny. We always charge the seller, similar way an estate agent does. Yeah. But it just depends on the deal. Every deal is different. We don't like have a set commission structure or anything like that. It's always more so on, okay, how quickly do you want it sold? What price do you want me to get for you, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many different variables. But yeah, we get paid from the sellers like any agent would, but we don't work for one or the other. We work kind of for both people. Because,
so how much was the development that you sold?
A few million.
Few million.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a good.
Your first deal was a few million. That's mental, isn't it?
That's at the time, and even now. I mean, we've got a very kind of diverse portfolio now in stock, but at the time we were just thinking, to make it work, we can't just sell a 100 grand house. It's not going to work. Yeah. Otherwise, we'd just be chasing our tail month in, month out to try and get the next one. So it's got to be worthwhile. And obviously, the type of clients we were dealing with wouldn't buy that type of stock anyway. They were big investors. Yeah. So yeah, it was just that we got a bit lucky. We had deals that fell through that were a lot more than that. Deals that fell through that were less than that. It was just persevering. And
now you're established, Tom. Like now you're established, and you've kind of got that reputation. I guess people will make a judgment based on that. At that time, no disrespect, but you're 23, I guess. Was you 23?
Yeah, 23. Yeah.
23. Why is this property developer saying, I'm going to trust these 23-year-olds to go and sell my couple £1 million property?
A lot of people ask that question when we first started, particularly when we first started, said, look, you've only just started. How can I trust you with this? Both sides have got nothing to lose. I put buyer and seller together. I don't stick in the middle and play Chinese whispers and that. So if I say, for argument's sake, I've got a player who's interested in this, and this. When we first started, people were like, everyone says that. I said, do you want me to put you on the phone with him? And that was kind of the turning point where people think, oh, he's not just saying it for the sake of it. He's got the person. He's seen the proof of funds. We can go forward. And again, as an investor, the buyer, if I say I've got something, there's no benefit in me lying about that. So it's a case where if I say I've got something for the buyer and the seller is looking to sell something, as long as there's a buyer and they're a credible buyer, why would they not use us? But yeah, there was a lot of people who didn't want to go on with us and thought we just started. But as soon as you kind of look after one person,
don't you, really, to get that trust as well?
You look after one person, again, they'll tell their mate, they'll tell the family. And that's kind of how we grew, word of mouth, because we don't really plaster social media as much as we probably should. But again, a lot of these deals are sensitive, especially the clients as well. So we don't want to put everything out there. It's all off market, and it's all kind of.
I was going to say, how come you don't plaster the social media? Because like we've had loads of guests on who do say like their driving force is the social media, and that's where they get a lot of the business from, social media.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the process now. We're in kind of a transition period as a business now. We've got quite a lot in the pipeline, but it's finding the balance. It's finding the right balance, because we've got an estate agency arm of the company now where it just covers the Midlands, but that's probably only 10% of the overall business.
Is that a shop?
Well, no, it's the office in the Jewellery Quarter.
Okay.
That's where we work out of, but we just cover everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a case where you just gotta try and make things work. Yeah.
Going back to the sourcing thing, what are the pros and cons of, like we said before, most sources just charge like a set fee of like a couple of grand or whatever. You obviously don't. I've had the conversation with Andre before. We went to events and they charged. There was a property investment business that charged a sourcing fee. What do you think the pros and cons are? Of
what, for a buyer or for the agent?
For the buyer, because we were speaking about the buyers that are not really clued up about buying properties, so they would be willing to spend the sourcing fee. Obviously, would you not charge a sourcing fee or not a set amount? What do you think the pros and cons are?
I mean, my business model is designed by not doing that, so I wouldn't say it's a good or a bad thing. Yeah. It's just that's not how we work, but it always is up to the agent. Some agents are worth paying that sourcing fee 100%. If you ask them for something and they give it you, why not? But the reason why we wanted to stay away from that as well is a lot of our mates and people who are in kind of those, I don't know whether they're in the music industry or athletes, things like that. It would be, for Tom, if I wanted to buy something, sourcing fee would be $2,000, but professional football would be $8,000 or $9,000 or $10,000. And they were saying to us like, I've got these sourcing agents coming to me and I know they charge me more than they charge a normal person. So for us, we don't want to put anyone in that position. It's just the price you pay is the price you pay. We're looked after anyway, so you don't have to worry about that. The agent doesn't need to worry about any fees going out, because I know agents like to ask that question. And it's plain and simple. If I send you an investment deck over that's got a portfolio on it, the price is there, the legals is there, stamp duty is there. That's it. Any other questions, feel free to ask. But there's no other hidden fees or anything like that. So that's why I think
you build them relationships from that.
And we're not making any money on the front end. We get paid on completion day. Yeah. So there's no.
So the sources though, don't they?
Yeah, but some sources do charge a retainer. So I'll say, look, give me 10 grand up front, I'll go and find you some property. And some will do that.
Yeah.
And if they don't find anything, they'll give them a little bit back and keep some for their time.
Yeah, I suppose
some
so, because they'll be working,
do that.
They'll be working all hours, and if the investor doesn't want to like buy it in the end, then obviously they worked all them hours for nothing. So
that's part and parcel of being a sourcer.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
that's live, but for us, it's we're in the same boat as buyer and seller. The deal needs to get done. The deal needs to be at the best price for both people, and for us again to get paid, and to continue the relationships with the people that we deal with, because we don't really sell one thing for one person. It's normally, if it's a seller, it's a client who comes back to us. They've got a portfolio that they're offloading 10, 20, 30 properties, and they'll want to come to us because we've sold the previous 5 or 6 before. And it's kind of repeat business because we've got those relationships. It's not just like, I don't know, Tom, Dick or Harry on the street who says, can you sell this? It is maybe 1% of the time. Yeah. The other 99% of the time, it's people we've built up those good relationships with who just like to come back with us because they know the process. We do things nice and quickly, or as quick as we can, depending on the deal. And then for the buyer, they know what they're getting. It's off market. It's not going to be touted around on an email list. If you say to me, you want something, and I send it to you, no one else is looking at that. You won't have the same deal as John. That's the difference.
What type of people would be, like, for example, if they've got like a big portfolio of 20 different developments, what would be the trigger for them wanting to sell? Like,
loads of things. Yeah. I've got clients who bought them 20 years ago in their personal names and not in a company name, and their tax is killing them, and they're just like, I'd just rather get rid, more hassle than it's worth. Some people might have made a lot of money on them. They bought them really below market value, refurbished them, want to sell them. Loads of things. Probates, anything. We get pretty much everything. We've got, at the minute, we've got anything from, we've got give or take about £200 million worth of stock at the moment. It's all solely contracted. It's all ours. Anything from a £40,000 buy to let, believe it or not, up to portfolios 100 million plus.
I was going to get onto that, but like going back to your first year, so you've left obviously your job, you took a gamble and taken this business, you've dived straight into it, and then the first year you've got £100 million worth of stock. What does that mean?
So that's, for us, it was a case where we went more so off of, well, it was kind of a mix of both things, off of a client's requirement and the demand that they've got, and just this person wants to sell, shall we try and find a buyer? Which we kind of learned quite quickly. It's probably not the best way of going about things, but again, if we've got something and someone comes into contact with us and we can just sell it, brilliant, that's great, everyone's happy. But yeah, we had, within the first year, we'd acquired about £100 million worth of stock.
Wait,
all off
when
market.
you said it, I was blown away. I was like, what does that actually mean? Like £100 million worth of stock.
We've taken on that much within the first year, yeah. So that was blocks of apartments.
So hotels. Sold that, or they've instructed you?
We didn't sell all of that.
Yeah, they've instructed you to.
They've instructed us to sell it. We sold tens of millions of pounds worth of that
in your first year.
Yeah,
mental.
But can't sell everything. It's like anything. You go into Tesco, it's not all going to sell.
Yeah,
but we try our best. But
no, that's unbelievable. Like your first year, and you've took on 100 million worth of stock. Yeah, you haven't sold it. You just said you sold tens of millions of stock, which in the first year of any business is absolutely mental, isn't it?
I think, and the thing is as well, we could have sold a lot more, but it was a lot of things, kind of sales fell through. People weren't giving information out that they should have been, and it was, we could have done better than we did, which we learned quite quickly. There's a lot of people in property.
That's part of the industry, isn't it?
Exactly.
Things fall through last minute,
and a lot of people like to tell stories about, I don't know, they like to hide things from buyers and hide things from sellers, and we like to just keep everyone. That's why we don't stay in between anymore.
Tell us a little bit about the dark side of property. Then obviously I'm involved in it as well, so I'd like to hear from your
when we first started. We sometimes, if a deal, let's say you said to me you wanted a block of apartments in a Liverpool postcode, for argument's sake, and I had it, but I couldn't contract it at that time, which is how we worked right at the start. We wouldn't contract everything. We'd say, look, you're the agent who's contracted it, but let's split a fee, and we'll do it like that. Agents just
directly,
they're just being nightmare. Agents just trying to manipulate the figures and go around you, and I think there's a lot of people in property like that. They try and cut you out a deal. I think
so essentially you guys are the middleman, and you're bringing buyer and seller together.
Yeah, that's it.
And then you run the risk,
involved.
Obviously, being that middleman of being cut out of deals.
We can't be cut out of deals now because everything's contracted. If you breach the contract,
you just started off. You're just getting used to it. You didn't probably know
at the time. We didn't really know the best way of going about it. Where people were trying to cut us out, which I think in hindsight, I think it's probably the stupidest thing you can do. Yeah, you might make a few quid, but the relationship with somebody else is far more valuable than a few quid. Which again is what we found out along the way. But just deals falling through where solicitors, poor, very, very poor solicitors who just, I've had solicitors say to me, I'm getting paid anyway, mate. I don't care if this goes through or not. I've literally had solicitors say that to me. Deals are falling through, big deals and
What's the
agents.
biggest deal you've had fall through?
We've had some big deals fall through.
Like life changing?
Yeah, I'd say so. That've fallen through, but
how close?
Very, very close. Very close to being completed. Fell through. Very early on as well. Very, very early on. But it was just a thing where my mindset is I'm a firm believer of if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. Just crack on. We'll get there in the end. Just keep going, keep persevering. So yeah, we've had some big deals fall through. We've had some big deals come through. We've had everything, every setback, every knockback.
I'm going to be cheeky. What's the biggest deal?
I was thinking it like.
Oh yeah, you was thinking of waiting for me to fucking say it.
No.
Audible.
In terms of what?
What money was like? What's the biggest deal
us?
for you? Yeah, as you,
don't need to go into the commission that you made, but the biggest land of development that you've sold.
Tens of millions of pounds. Yeah.
How much commission did you get?
I'll tell you after. but yeah, we deal with everything across the board. So yeah, from a £40,000 buy to let, like I said, all the way up to the big stuff. Yeah.
So but realistically, you guys are looking for more high ticket, kind of.
Not necessarily.
No.
Now that we're established and we've got a very, very good network and client base who, again, they trust us, they come back to us. It's whatever the client wants at the end of the day. We massively go off the client's requirement now, whether it's one property and it's 100 grand. I've literally got a client, I've got a lad in League 2 at the moment. He wants to buy a property 95 grand, 100%. I'll do that for him.
Well, I was going to say that because obviously you come from a football background. Is there a little bit in your that you want to help out these footballers that aren't clued up about investing into property and basically set their life up for after football?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's one of the main things because of my background and Joe's background in particular. We both fell out of football. No backup plan, no nothing. Yeah. And again, we didn't have really any education on what to do after the football kind of career's done. So, I mean, we go into a few clubs. We've been into a few clubs recently, talked to the 21s. But for us, it's not all just transactional. We do a lot of education as well. I mean, going back a couple of months, I was on the phone to a young lad at Chelsea. And I was telling him my story, to be fair. I was saying, look, this was me. I was at Rotherham. I was at JD the next year. And his jaw dropped. He was like, oh my God, that could be me. Yeah. I said, yeah, it could. And it's a bigger fall from Chelsea to JD Sports, believe me. So it's things like that, explaining my situation. And again, everyone's in a different position, but it's about kind of having that backup plan. Whether you act on it right now or in a couple of years, it's that education and saying, okay, why would you invest in this area and not this area? Why would you go in this asset class and not this asset class? Are you looking for cash flow now? Or are you looking for capital growth over a 5, 10, 15-year period? What's the short-term, medium-term and long-term goals? Because people come to us and say, look, I've got my kids are 15. By the time they're 18, I want a decent property portfolio that I can give to them. Things like that. Yeah. We've got clients who are after all sorts. It's not particularly after a certain property. It's about, I want X amount of money in the next couple of years coming in, just cash flow. I want my property value to go up by this amount. How can I get there? What type of refurb do I do? Do you have a developer that you can put me in touch with who can do this? We've got developers all over the country who give us properties on a monthly basis in Yorkshire, the North East, Manchester, down south, Kent, Birmingham as well.
Now Liverpool after meeting me.
Now Liverpool.
No, but what I wanted to touch on was obviously the football side of investing. I understand that because the career for a footballer is much shorter than maybe a musician.
Yeah.
I don't want to stereotype all musicians, but obviously they can make money in like royalties and things like that. Their shelf life's a lot bigger than a footballer. What kind of requests do you get from like musicians who are coming to you? Because it's going to be obviously a lot different than a football player.
You say that, but in all honesty, we see it they're quite similar in the fact that 1 minute you're hot, the next minute you're not. That's what I always say to them. Excuse me, because you can have a hit tune in the charts or whatever, but if you don't make the second one, you're done. That's the life of some of these musicians. Some of the guys that we deal with, they're doing well, but we deal again with all literally from just starting out all the way to the top. So it's just about planning and giving yourself time to plan. Money gives you time. So if you're fortunate to have money now, whatever career you're in, at least you can have the time to educate yourself, rather than me, who didn't have the time or the money when I first started out. I was making rash decisions to work in a flipping sausage roll factory. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't have the time or the money to really think about the correct path. So it's more so about how much can we educate this person about my life, Joe's life, my business partner Raz's life, how we came to where we were, our friends who were in similar positions. And it's not just always about property. It's about property's business. It can be anything. It could be a podcast. It could be a shop. It could be anything. The goal's still the same, to make the business sustainable and profitable. People go and buy a property. I had a lottery winner who called us up, won money on the lottery, nothing massive, few £100,000, but put it all into a new build buy to let. And I said, why would you do that? This was when I was an estate agent. Spent all of her winnings on a new build buy to let. It was already overpriced. The rental yield would have been about 3%, 4%.
That's a lack of knowledge, though, isn't it?
Again, lack of knowledge. Some people they've got the capability, they've got the money, but they just don't know what to do with it. And that's what we see a lot of as well. People coming to the end of their careers, they'll say, look, I'm not going to be a pundit. I'm not going to be on a podcast. What on earth am I going to do? Can I get into property? And we'll start people off slow. We don't want to get, even if they've got the big books, we don't say go straight into a commercial conversion or something big. We'd say just buy a buy to let.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So what would you say to like a lad who's playing like lower league football, hasn't got that much money behind them? How much money would they need to start investing into property? Obviously it varies depending on where, but
depends on the area. But I mean, I'll give you an example. We've got a couple of young lads playing lower league now, and I can pick up a property in a decent location for 80 grand. Get a deposit on that buy to let deposit, 25%. So you don't need masses as much as a lot of people would think. You still need a decent amount of money, because if you're parting with, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 grand, it's still sizable chunks of money. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's also about starting as small as you can rather than rushing in. I've had people come to me who want to rush into things, and I've told them no. Even if I've got the stuff to sell, I'll say, no, I'm not selling it to you, because it's the worst thing you can do. Time. Yeah, 100%. Especially when they're in the changing room as well, and there's lads who are doing the big stuff, and they want to be saying, oh, I'm doing the big stuff too.
The thing is, though, then, obviously with the young lads, if they're coming, it's all right for a young lad if he's buying a traditional buy to let at 80 grand or whatever. It might be yielding whatever it is. Yeah. And obviously depending on the area.
We're looking at 9-10%.
That would be a difficult strategy for someone who's coming towards the end of the career, who needs cash flow a lot quicker.
Exactly. So we would look at other things. We do a lot with HMOs. HMOs have kind of got a bad name. A lot of people think HMOs are really, really poor, but you can get the complete other end of the spectrum where you've got very high spec ones with good working professional tenants in that still bring you in 12%, 13%. So it's just about finding the right thing. And we have developers across the country who can develop them for you. All you have to do is put your cash in. So you put your cash in, buy the shell of the property, for argument's sake, give them the refurb money, and they will refurb it, tenant it, manage it for you. You don't even have to do anything. A lot of our stuff is turnkey, which means it's completely hands-off investment. You can be as hands-off or as hands-on as you want with us. If you want to do everything, be my guest, you can do. We'll advise as much as we can, and whether you need a solicitor or, I don't know, an accountant to set up your company or whatever the case may be, we can do that. We've got the capability to do that. Or if you don't want to do absolutely anything, and you just, we can do that.
Do you not think that that like hands-off approach would maybe be cool short term, but obviously if for educational,
it depends on the investor. 100%. A lot of the footballers who've had a good career, they prefer the hands-off stuff. They're just like, look, I don't want to worry about it. I'm focusing on my career. I don't want to worry about if boilers burst or tenant's done this. Managing agent needs to deal with that. Some people, if it's an educational thing, we'll be as hands-on as we can, and we'll advise them, and we'll put them in touch. Half of my job is just putting them in touch with someone else who I think, you know what, you might not even buy or sell with this person, but I tell you what, a very good person to learn off of. I've put people on the phone and said, look, you'll do no business, but can you just speak to this person for me? Because he was a footballer, he's now in his 40s, and he's been in property, and he's done this, done that. Can you speak with a lad who's 19, 20, who's now becoming a footballer and wants to get into property? That's a lot of what we do as well, because of our network. So we're quite fortunate in that respect.
What's next for Rose and Dean then?
There's a lot. Stuff that we won't talk about today. There's a lot of stuff in the pipeline, but just building on what we've done, because we're very young. Very young.
How long has it been going for now then?
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah, so it's very, very young. We've done well in the time that we've obviously been a business, but I've not got to anywhere near where I want to be yet. So as a company, and obviously my two business partners as well, and my family. So they're not retired yet.
Yeah.
So
is that the plan to like bring more people on board? Internally?
Well, that's the process we're going through at the moment. Getting some more people on board, different avenues. But yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting time. But to answer your question, I don't know the exact route it's going to go down. There's a lot of planning going in behind the scenes. I don't know when it's going to fully kickstart, but it's exciting. I think for us more than anything, we're just fortunate to be in a better position than we were a year and 2 years ago, and just keep going from there and get to the end goal. And then if we can beat the end goal and go a bit further, then we'll do that as well. But yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting times.
What's your biggest mistake or lesson learned since you've been in business?
Trusting people.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Obviously, with your business, a lot of the deals are done through trust, through yourself, Joe, your other business partner, Raza, good memory. So you guys, obviously, you build that personal trust. For example, if you start bringing employees on board, how do you kind of maintain that level of trust?
That's a lot of the conversation we're having at the moment, and some of the people that we know in our friendship groups are potentially people we're in the process of having conversations with now, who we do trust, and we've known since, like me and Joe were 11 years old. You know what I mean? So that sort of things. Yeah, that's the conversation that we're having. But I mean, in business and trust as a whole, it's going back to right at the start. Solicitors and agents trying to cut you out and things like that. It's just trusting people, where I think there's always got to be an element of trust, but you can't give too much and go over the line where you think they're going to look after you when they're not. Yeah. Everyone puts themselves first, unfortunately. And we've kind of fell victim to that quite a bit in business, and whether you guys have maybe in football or whatever, then you'd be able to understand that. But yeah, just trusting the wrong people. But again, I think grateful that we trusted the wrong people, because we've learned a lot as well. I think the mistakes that we've made a lot more mistakes than we have good things that have happened. So we're fortunate because we've learned a heck of a lot from that.
Advice to young lads wanting to invest into property?
Speak to the right people. Don't pay $8,000 when you could pay 2 for a sourcing fee. Just speak to as many people as you can. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because a lot of people speak to us and they're like, oh, this is a stupid question, I don't want to ask it. And they get a bit embarrassed. Ask as many questions, even if it is a stupid question, we'll laugh together and then we'll find out what the right answer is. Educate yourself as much as you can. We're in an era now where you can go on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram to find out as much as you can. Try and find out from the right people, yes, but you can do a lot yourself these days. But if you surround yourself with people who have the right intentions and are happy just to help you learn, great. Go to networking events, speak to people. I'm in London all the time, speaking to clients.
Shopping.
I wish.
What strategy would you say is best right now then for the current market that we're in? Like,
depends on what you're looking for. So again, people always ask that question. There's never a right answer, because you might be looking to make £1 million tomorrow. You might be looking to make £1,000 a month cash flow. So you can't buy the same thing. Depends on what your goal is. If it's short-term cash flow, I mean, we've got stuff up north where, again, you could pick a property up for 80 grand and you'll be bringing in like a 10% yield. Decent, not bad. It'll be below market value. It might be worth 90, 100, 110. So you've got some cash in it from day one. The yield's there. Keep it, hold it. It's a good investment. Or we've got stuff where I've got a plot of land where it's got planning permission on it for 10, 11 houses. People will make a decent amount of money on that. So it all depends on your strategy and what your goals are. But again, I think my advice would be, don't just jump into something if you don't 100% know. Speak to as many people as you can. If you've got an agent that you deal with, don't just speak to your agent, speak to your accountant, get a good solicitor. Speak to your mum and dad, because they'll tell you if you're doing something wrong. Get advice from your family. People try and do too much on their own. I see that a lot in property. You don't have to. Property, I still see property as just a business. Treat it like any other business, whether it was a takeaway or whatever. It's got to be profitable. You've got to have the right team around you. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Hey, this is a mad question. I'm going to ask her.
Go on.
What do you think about owning your own house? Dylan's sitting there thinking, well, obviously you should own your own house and all that.
Depends on your goal. If your goal is to have no stress, you see yourself living in the same place for the rest of your life, fair enough. If you're looking to if you've got a business, you're a business owner, you don't know where you're going to be from 1 year to next, or you're a footballer or whatever, there's nothing wrong with renting. Nothing wrong with renting. A lot of people see renting as throwing money away. Yeah, not at all. I think couldn't be anything worse than, I don't know, scraping by to pay a mortgage, which is still throwing money away, and you're doing that for 25 years. It's all personal preference and your circumstances. I think in this day and age, a lot of people just like to say, I own this.
Yeah.
People always say about financing cars. Why would you finance a car? Finance is a bad thing. I've seen proof of funds from clients who got 100 million quid where they finance cars. Yeah. They're the people you should take information from and learn from.
That's why I asked the question, because I see a lot of people who are successful and got a lot of money, but talk about not owning their own home.
Yeah, I've got a lot of clients who are very, very successful, big businessmen, don't own their own home, they rent.
Depends, doesn't it? Obviously,
depends on their circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. What business? It depends. If your business is kind of geographical and it's got to be in this country, then owning a home's probably more sensible to do that, isn't it? But if
some
it's a
people
business,
dream of being a homeowner, and that's brilliant. That's great.
Well, I think this is why I asked the question, because I think we obviously get brought up to go to work, pay off your mortgage, try and pay your house off by the time you're whatever age it is. I don't know what the average age is, and live in your house after it paid off. But is that the right thing to do financially to make more money?
I have this conversation with my own parents and say, because obviously they've got their mortgage, and I laugh at them saying, one day we'll be mortgage free. Yeah. What do you get at the end of that? Nothing.
All your money stuck in the house.
Yeah. So again, there's no real right answer for that. But for me, it depends on your lifestyle and your circumstances and what you want to do. If your goal is to own a house, be a homeowner, and you just that's your goal, brilliant. Do it 10 times over if you can.
Yeah.
But if your goal is to kind of have money elsewhere and you don't mind renting, I've got big musicians who are renting. Got big footballers who are renting, big businessmen who are renting. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. With music and football, your job could be in London one day and it could be in Portugal the next.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But again, people would see that as a massive, compared to me in a sausage roll factory, I'd look at the musician and think, I'd love to be in their position.
Yeah.
So it's all subjective. It's all subjective. There's no right answer. I think property as a whole, there's no right answer. You see people on TikTok saying, this is the thing to buy now. They ain't got a clue, because what's your audience?
Yeah, exactly.
Your audience wants something different. So I
think it's a story. I think your story is probably similar to many players who fell out at like 19 and 20, where they've gone and chased jobs that they may have not wanted to do, just obviously purely to survive and bring an income in for the time being. But the fact that you're out of that situation now and you're in a thriving business with something that you're passionate about, I think that's inspirational to a lot of
I appreciate that.
A lot of obviously footballers who've not made it at a young age. It can be difficult, but obviously with the correct mindset, and then obviously putting yourself in situations which are going to maybe enhance your career, you can get out of that and do things that you really want to be passionate about and achieve. So
I think that's the key thing, being passionate about it. I've tried businesses before, very small, tried a clothing brand, and like everyone does, if you're not passionate about it, it's never going to work. I think that's why this has worked, because it was all or nothing for one, but I loved it. I love going and meeting people. I love speaking to people and learning from people. I learn every single day. And again, it's the same when I said I used to go to viewings and learn from the investors. I'll be now sat in a boardroom with fund managers and people like that, where I think, wow, I didn't know that. And we're still learning every single day.
And you don't know what you don't know, do you? Put yourself in a different environment, you learn.
And make yourself uncomfortable. That's what I've learned, because sometimes I've gone into meetings with people, I think, bloody hell, wow. And a bit uncomfortable, throwing numbers at you, throwing figures at you. It's a difficult conversation, and you want to do the right thing and say the right thing. And I love stuff like that, putting yourself under pressure. I think me 6 years ago I would have crumbled, but now I think I'm in a good position where I can cope with things like that. And I think that's probably the way that we've all probably been successful, because we've put ourselves in the most uncomfortable situations that no one else will put themselves in, or not many people would. But you can only get out the other side in a positive light.
But equally, not all of them are going to be successful. Some will.
Some won't. That's the best ones. Yeah. The ones that aren't successful, you learn a lot from. So,
where can people find you, and why should people come and work with you?
Instagram. My Instagram is
Rose and Dean.
Yeah, Rose and Dean Instagram, on my personal Instagram at TMRSE. I don't really use socials as much as I probably should, like we've touched on. Yeah. But you should work with us, because we get stock that no one else can, categorically. We've got clients all over the country that provide us with properties on a daily basis, off market. You will have a different property to you, and you won't know about it, and if I send something to you, take your time, do your homework. It's not going to be swept from underneath you. It's no one else is going to outbid you.
You're not playing
price is the
people off
price.
each other.
Exactly that. A lot of agents do that and say, "Oh, sorry, mate, it's gone now."
Yeah.
That's the worst thing that I could do. If I say to you, "I'm going to look after you," and then I call you up in a week and say, "Sorry, mate, I've sold it elsewhere," you're not going to come back to me again. So yeah, that's how we look after our clients. If you ask me for something, it's yours. I'll send it to you, no one else. Until you tell me, Tom, no, it doesn't quite work for me. Then I'll move it on.
You want to build long relationships with people.
100%. It's like I said, it's not about the transactions for us. It's about building the relationship, and the business is going to transcend all of this anyway. And the relationships are what's going to keep that afloat and sustain it. So we can get anything.
Thank you very much for coming on.
No,
Tom.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.